It is here in the film that Charlie finally meets Edna. During the card game, Chaplin produces a prop he had never used before and would never use again. Other outtakes include flashes of Chaplin as director, telling Tiny Sanford how to move his arm, watching an uninspired actor in growing dismay, becoming affected by Sanford's overacting, by Sanford's whistling, or by his own method of shuffling in which he doesn't move a single card. In contrast to all this hilarity, a flash of anger at unruly extras in the farewell scene. Near the end of the filming, Chaplin ties up the loose ends. A coin now becomes the link between the boat and the cafe. After 745 slates, he has to reshoot his meeting with Edna, for now they know each other. The film now falls into place as Charlie realizes that Edna is alone in the world. What started out as a simple cafe comedy now becomes a well-thought-out story of two immigrants who meet on a boat, part, and are brought together by fate, a coin, and a bullying waiter. The rich artist now propels them towards a happy ending. He will pay for the privilege of painting Edna's portrait. And Chaplin wraps up the story with this charming scene. On its release, Photoplay magazine said, "In its roughness and apparent simplicity, The Immigrant is a jewel. No farce seen in years has been more adroitly, more perfectly worked out." To make sure that everything was perfectly worked out, Chaplin surrounded himself with vaudevillians like John Rand, who knew comedy inside out. And he had the help of one of the top English music hall comedians, who can be glimpsed at the end of this take demonstrating the gag to Rand. Charlie's older brother, Sidney Chaplin. Sidney, on the right, had been the more famous comic in England, but he took his work less seriously than his brother, which perhaps accounts for this piece of film, the kind of fun in front of the camera Charlie seldom indulged in. Sidney had just joined his brother as business manager, and he helped out on the films, for he was adept at every kind of stage work. But even as skilled a performer as Sid Chaplin could make mistakes. So it was with his brother. Buried among his rushes are his mishaps and accidents. The sheer physical strain of turning out a film a month was enormous, even though Chaplin is so young. Was it coincidence that in Chaplin's last film, under the demanding mutual contract, he plays a man who escapes from prison? The Adventurer was a film of speed and vitality, which began and ended with a chase. Later in the film, Charlie finds himself a guest at a house party, but he's never been a guest of anyone, except the federal authorities. Chaplin often started a scene with only the beginning worked out, hoping to be inspired en route. He usually was. Here he has the routine rehearsed as far as the drinks are concerned. Now he begins to improvise. He doesn't get very far, but he's obviously pleased with the gag. This take is awkwardly staged. However, it gives him a bright idea. He should now meet someone. Who? He improvises a joke which convulses them both. Now everything falls into place. Charlie becomes better acquainted with Edna. This charming scene does not appear in the film. Chaplin has worked his way into a major difficulty. He had started a sequence with a Spanish dancer. We've assembled the scene as we think Chaplin planned it. Having set up the Spanish dancer, Chaplin has to make something out of it. In this close-up, he conveys the effect on his pulse rate much more strongly. But he has given himself a problem by flirting with two women in one scene. 30 slates later, he is still stubbornly trying to conjure comedy from an unpromising situation. Charlie thinks the dancer is causing him to overheat, Actually, he's sitting on a radiator leaking steam. That much Chaplin has worked out. What he hasn't worked out is what to do when he discovers the radiator. And the scene ends with a spontaneous but unrehearsed move, untypically clumsy, and much of it missed by the cameraman. Another 30 slates, and Chaplin is still in a corner of his own devising. But he has condensed the scene and made the discovery more convincing. The steam is now painfully realistic. And the scene leads neatly into the next. But each solution leads to another problem. Now he has to find a logical start to the radiator scene, which he shoots at the end. Now that he has worked out all the permutations after 100 laborious slates, what does he do with the sequence? That's all there is to it. No Spanish dancer, no radiator, just a hint of the dance. When I had difficulty solving a problem, wrote Chaplin, I would lay off work and try to think, striding up and down in torment. This unique fragment shows him in discussion with Albert Austin and Henry Bergman, his two closest advisors. It was the hours spent like this that produced moments like this. Chaplin made 12 outstanding comedies for Mutual in a mere 16 months. It was, he said later, the happiest period of his entire career. But he was not entirely happy with the films. Must every comedy end with a chase, he asked? In 1917, he left. He joined First National, built his own studio, and at last achieved the independence he had aimed for. Now he planned to concentrate on quality rather than quantity. He would be the boss. He would produce great films. And those who worked with him describe how in the next episode.